Firstly, let's introduce Leesa. She's our first speaker this morning. Welcome, Leesa. She has over 15 years in human resources and organizational development, and her key strengths are helping leaders and organizations navigate change and uncertainty. Leesa has worked in multiple industries and sectors, including IT, government, private education, financial services, property, you can name it all. I met Leesa when she was at Suncorp 6 years ago, and now she's a certified executive coach with her own consulting, career, and leadership coaching business called Human Art. In her coaching practice, she loves working with forward-thinking women, emerging leaders, and startup founders. But she's also a very active volunteer and enjoys mentoring women, youth, and refugees on a pro bono basis. Today, Leesa will be talking about the current state of affairs for women. Can we have a show of hands for Leesa?
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Carla, and everybody for tuning in today. And it's such a privilege to be able to talk to everybody. And I think, that there's no doubt across the whole, global space that the whole subject of women in leadership has changed enormously, and we're in a completely new realm when it comes to solving for this issue and solving for this problem. And it's really just not about women anymore. It is everyone's issue. So just a little bit about myself. As Carla mentioned, I'm a career reimagination and leadership coach, and my main focus is about opening up different ways of thinking and working and living when we embrace uncertainty. And so uncertainty can bring up a whole bunch of fears and worries for people. We know that through the course of last year, our nerves were tested and challenged in ways that we'd never expected or planned for. But one of the things that Carla asked me to share with you, and it's really just about getting on the same page of where Australia is at around women in leadership. And for those of you who follow the World Economic Forum papers and the Women in Leadership indexes, it's been some pretty dire and disappointing results. And I don't know about you, but when I saw them, my heart really sank, because like many of you on this call, I've been working tirelessly pretty much all my life and my career to raise the profile of women and the importance of women and their views in leading business. So just, I guess, a little bit about the facts, the story so far. This issue is never going to go away, and it's something that we need to continually talk about. And I love the philosophy that we've shared earlier on in this call around the reference to Indigenous studies and Indigenous leadership, because I think that's really where the heart of this whole topic goes to, and hopefully we'll glean some insights from the conversations later on. So just, I guess, to get some facts on the table, in 2021, Australia dropped from 12th place to 70th place in the world in economic participation for women, which is quite a devastating blow. We dropped from 57 to 99 in health and services, and we dropped from 32 to 54 in political empowerment. The one thing, though, which is our saving grace, is we're still #1 in educational attainment. So I'm not quite sure what that tells us, but at least we're not doing too badly in that space. But then a funny thing happened, and we all know about this. COVID-19 hit. And this really was the catalyst for shining a light on so many things, not just health, not just women in leadership, but everything that we've come to know and understand about systems and ways of operating and what we really care about as human beings. So we're lifting this conversation around women up to a whole nother level. And whilst those stats paint a pretty devastating picture, and I can tell you from the work that I've done with young women especially, they are so distraught, they are so traumatized, because we've painted a dream for all of them that they can have anything they want if they work hard enough. When they see those statistics, it's almost like we've pulled the rug out from underneath them. But my view and my encouragement is that instead of looking over our shoulder and sort of looking in the rear view mirror, is that we start to really acknowledge and accept it is what it is. We can't do anything about it. We have this past, but it doesn't have to be our future. And if we start to move our conversations into a forward-thinking mode, we're going to have much more productive and constructive dialogue around it, rather than pointing fingers and sort of getting underneath the whys and the hows. I think most of us know what they are. So when we look at those statistics, and it's probably just worthwhile to look at Australia in the context of everyone else in the world, if we keep on doing what we've always been doing, it's going to take us 153 years now to achieve gender parity in Australia. So it's not quite as bad as some parts of the world, but it's certainly not the best. And I don't know about you, but I don't accept this statistic at all. I really do think that it's our role, all of us in this generation and beyond, to continue to challenge this. It doesn't have to be a certainty just because it's a prediction based on today's knowledge and information. So one of the things that I do in my business is I leverage a lot of neuroscience and systemic intelligence. And again, if we go back to the World Economic Forum and the skills and talents that we need in our future generations of work, we're not just talking about left brain, old order, industrial thinking. We're talking about the whole brain being needed to be able to shift the way our economies work, the way our cultures work, the way society works. And so really what I'm sort of trying to point to here, and I'm sure it's of no surprise to everyone, is that if we don't shift the conversation, if we don't acknowledge the whole brain, all of our capabilities, all of our talents, we're not going to shift the gender issue. If we keep trying to fit the gender issue back into an industrial mindset and an industrial way of working, we're going to get what we've always got, and we'll be sitting here in 10 years' time complaining about what went wrong. And so I think this is really, really important, but it's scary territory because it's a bit of an unknown. It's something that we haven't embraced before. And so this topic around making room for gender equality is, as we know, last year, everything came under the spotlight. We had sexual harassment, we had climate change, we've had health, obviously, we've had racism, everything that you could possibly imagine came to the surface. And we've all known that those things have been there in the system, but 2020 really showed us what all of those elements were. And when we think about the paradigm of business today, and it was designed by men for men, very patriarchal, thousands and thousands of years, we've leveraged works, literary works like The Art of War in terms of designing our business strategy. We pull this language forward in everything we do around business and politics. And so in a sense, we have a system that really doesn't create room for gender equality. The suitcase is full and it doesn't matter what we do, we ain't going to fit gender equality in that suitcase. That agenda is chock-a-block with everything that we've done up until now. So in my view, it is around unpacking what's in that suitcase and repacking it side by side with men. It's not just a women's issue, it's a whole of society issue now. And I guess further to that point, if I think about setting up today's conversation and the panel, and again, just going back to those Indigenous learnings and understandings, I've spent quite a lot of time looking at, I guess, the way our ancestors have operated. And if you're familiar with some of the readings, you'll understand this term, tend and befriend, which is really the essence of Indigenous thinking. And it's not about war, it's not about winning and losing, it's about living together in harmony with nature. And my piece, I guess, in terms of how do we shift things, is that we actually need to start exploring a new narrative. So we can do a whole bunch of initiatives. We can put implement programs, we can educate people, but the actual language that we use in business is what influences our emotions, and our emotions influence behaviour. And so if you think about just some of the language that we do use in business, that it's just become commonplace, my invitation is to shift that language in a way that is about growth and moving forward, rather than destruction and killing the competition and things like that, because that language is really what is influencing our subconscious behaviour at the end of the day. And we just don't know that we're doing it because we just take it as the norm. And it is going to be a really, really painful process to shift this. These are not silver bullet ideas or solutions. These are things that we need to do step by step, working in tandem with each other. So my legacy, I guess, is that how do we use today's discussion to bounce forward together? So we could spend an awful lot of time unpicking the stats, but I really do think it's about having different conversations and having everyone at the table on those conversations. And I guess just to finish up is that journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And we know this, and it's a great piece of philosophy, but we all have it within our own agency to take one step forward. Someone else isn't going to solve the problem. Each and every one of us needs to take some agency on this topic. And I do believe that with the people that we've got on today's panel, we're going to have some interesting conversations. And hopefully there'll be some gold nuggets that you can take back to your workplace to really start this new narrative that's required around gender. Thank you.